We're here at the Activate Network Summit 2012. I'm Butch Stearns, and I'm joined by Nathaniel Welch right now from CFAR. Nathaniel, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Tell us about
CFAR. So CFAR is a management consulting firm. We do a lot of work with large healthcare organizations. And you know, large organizations, because we've worked in some, get stuck. The senior teams get stuck, so our job is to help them get unstuck. So we bring in both a business focus and a behavioral focus to the work that we do. And it is a lot of fun because, you know, when you're working with a senior team that's trying to create a new strategy for their healthcare organization, there'll be a lot of personal stuff that kind of comes to the surface that you want to bring out and have the real conversations about.
So this event, Activate Network Summit, the term behavioral that you used, it seemed to me there was a time where tried and true business people were like, you know, we can't put numbers on that. We know it's there. We know it's important. You want to recognize your employees. We want to, you know, but I'm not going to spend a lot of money or time studying the behavior of my employees or my clients. That model's been completely flipped now, hasn't it?
It has been flipped. And in fact, you're giving them more credit than they should get. Because most of the time they'd say, that stuff is soft, I don't care about it.
Can't put any numbers around it.
Can't put any numbers around it, let's just go ahead and do it. So I think one of the things I think that Activate's done very nicely is to provide a tool to look at what's really happening in an organization and give you some mathematical ideas about what's happening there. And then the key thing is, how do you translate that then into activities that the senior team can then take up and bring about change? So it's Rob Cross talks about taking a network lens and using a network lens to look at an organization. I think it's such a powerful metaphor because so many leaders are focused on, here's the hierarchy, this is the job I want you to do, this is how I'm going to measure you. And in reality, what happens is you really have to tap into the informal network.
So when you're working with a client or a potential client, and you start, and the light bulbs start to go off, and they understand the importance of it, and they understand how you can measure it, where do you go from there? How do you seal the deal? How do you let them know that, where's your budget? Here's what you should put around this. Let's get something done.
Well, if Activate's done their job, which they always do, they've gotten the budget to do the analysis and the diagnosis. And then our job is after that, is once they've done the network map and they've kind of figured out where are some of the issues, CFAR skills are to come in and help figure out, well, what are the next steps you need to take? How do you engage physicians to work more effectively across, out of their boundaries and work with others that are there? How do you get a senior team to become more cohesive if it happens to be that they're not as cohesive as they should be? So Activate really kind of creates a very fertile ground for companies like ours to come in and help them figure out, okay, where do we go from here to bring about a change that needs to happen?
So let me ask a follow-up question on what you just brought up. How do you get a senior team? Give me one example of how you get a senior management team to work together on the same page from different departments. They all share the same goal. Maybe they meet once a week. They share the common vision, but then they go back and they got their to-do lists and they do their separate things, and they're not working collectively, even though they think they are.
They've got their silos. And so I think there are two things. One thing is to think about, what is the reason that person is there working? And so what's the passion that draws a physician to become an administrator in a large hospital organization? What's the passion that a chair has about the work that they do in an academic medical center? I mean, these are all leaders who are doing the work not just because they're being paid, but because they have a passion around the work. And so what you need to do is help them focus on what's important about the work that they're doing and get them to see, here's a pathway to allow you to deliver higher quality care for a patient, to increase patient safety, to engage your physicians and nurses in a much more collaborative way of working with patients, et cetera. So I think you have to tap into the business issue and the passion that the individual leader has for the work that they're doing.
Interesting. No, it's a great point because, if you're on the production line and you're in manufacturing, how's marketing going to help you? You need to respect what marketing is going to do, but what I'm hearing you say is you need to understand how it can help you do your job. And once you respect that and understand it, you'll see it in a whole different light.
You will. And what will happen is people will have that aha that I'm not just doing my job on my own, but I'm really part of a system. And the system works because the different parts of the system are connected to one another, and actually they figured out how to collaborate effectively. And that's a lot of our work, is thinking about what's the business issue, what are the kind of the behaviors that people have that are getting in the way of them achieving what they want to achieve. And so, it may be that you bring the manufacturing folks in with the marketing folks into a large group session, and you work with them. And through that work together, they really begin to understand how they impact each other.
So you used the term aha a couple of times in this interview. Did you have an aha moment here today? And if not, did you have one that reinforced one of your previous aha moments?
I think one of the aha moments came from Jim Fowler's talk at lunch.
Yeah.
In thinking about for networks, I've never really thought about looking at a network of, whatever it is, 20 million people or 30 million people, and really being able to derive some important behavioral information from that look. And so Jim and Nicholas's work on large groups and on the social structures of large groups, I think for me was very interesting.
Great. Nice talking with you, Nathaniel.
Nice talking to you, Butch.
My pleasure. Nathaniel Welch from CFAR. This is the Activate Network Summit 2012.